great. Another birthday? What the hell is a birthday? I'm going to be 54 in a couple weeks, and I can hear my girls yelling in the background. This is going to be a professional video, and I'm here to talk about birthdays. I don't like birthdays anymore. I don't want to be a cliche artist, but I do find that since I've been about 50, I don't really feel like I get any kind of birthday present that appeals to me. Every birthday feels like, I don't know where it comes from. It's a cosmic cinder block is added to a backpack on my back, and there's this accumulation right now of 53 cinder blocks weighing me down. And when I turn 54 in a couple weeks, a 54th cinder block will be weighing me down. And it's just crushing me. There's this weight to growing old that terrifies the hell out of me. I find myself completely terrified of growing old. Now, there's a second curse to growing old, and that's the implicit condemnation of a wasted life. What the hell have you done in your 54 years on planet Earth? I don't have anything to brag about, really. I mean, I've learned how to shave in the shower. I can shave in the shower without using a mirror. Whoop-de-doo to you, McMahon. You know, there's this implicit condemnation. I'm scared as hell of growing old. You know, we live in a youth-oriented society. And people keep telling me, oh, growing old is a wonderful thing. It's a time of contemplation, of wisdom. It's a time of just slowing down and smelling the roses. Screw that, man. I want my hair back. I don't want to have plantar fasciitis when I run. I want to be able to wear a 32-inch pant. I live in Los Angeles, where you can never be too young, too skinny, or too rich. Screw growing old. So clearly, I'm not doing well with having a birthday coming up. I miss being young so much. I remember being young was like a drug. I never felt like I was going to die. I never thought about death. I was just lost in this euphoria, probably just full of testosterone and all sorts of other hormones. Man, my girls are having way too much fun. Well, they're young. They're not thinking about all these heavy, weighted issues that crush me every day like cinder blocks. So, you know, my grandfather told me something. You know, he passed away in 2001 at the age of 85. He told me, old age is no country for scared men. You know, it's no country for cowards. And he's quite right. When you get old, you got to be constantly probed, medical exams. And then there's more of a likelihood of having some bad physical thing. Man, it sounds like they're cheering the Beatles. Is Paul McCartney and John Lennon doing a little acoustic concert in the room back there? You probably can't even hear it. I don't know. So I'm growing old, and I need something to really help me out with the matter. And it turns out there's some wisdom here by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. I love this book. And what he tells me is your growing old is not your enemy. Death is not your enemy. Fear is your enemy. Fear is inside of you. Therefore, you are your worst enemy. And he has this amazing parable or story that he tells to explain how death and old age are not our enemies, but rather we are our own enemies. And it's called the Death in Tehran. And what happens is this servant is with his master in Iran or Persia, ancient Persia, and the servant meets death. And the servant wants to get the hell away from death, so he borrows his master's fastest horse, and he just goes right to Tehran. And instead of escaping death, he rushes right toward death. And the parable of the story is that, or the moral of the story, or the lesson of the story is that they're having way too much fun. Here I am talking about death in Tehran, and my girls are having way too much fun over that back room. The lesson of the story is that death is not your enemy, but your own fears that come from you are your own enemy. And we have to conquer our fears by finding a meaning in life, a higher purpose, such as learning how to shave in the shower without a mirror. or learning how to take a leather watch band off and replace it with a stainless steel one. Meaning, baby. And he says you also have to embrace your responsibilities. That if you walk away from your responsibilities, and meaning you're essentially like that servant running straight towards your death, and it's because of your own fears of your higher responsibilities and of your higher purpose that you do that. And it got me to thinking about how fear creates this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy and this delusional loop that never goes away. I like to tell my students sometimes that if you're having a nightmare that a monster is chasing you and it's about to eat you, you gotta wake up before it catches you. If you don't wake up before the monster eats you, you're gonna die. Now, of course, the monster in the dream is not gonna kill you, but you could die of a heart attack. So your own fear could elicit a heart attack. Sometimes I'll see a fire truck and ambulance on the college campus, and what happens is someone was about to give a speech in the public speaking class, and they had an asthma attack from nerves. They were their own worst enemy. It turns out that voodoo dolls kind of work. They don't work, but they're like a negative placebo. If you believe someone made a voodoo doll of you, and they're pulling the arms, witch doctors and all this, if you believe that, the stress could induce a stroke, a heart attack, could lower your immune system. You could come down with some horrible illness and die. So the fear that you have inside you is very bad. The other thing about fear is it makes you do the most irrational things that create even worse problems than you're scared of. 30 years ago, I had a student. He was very short, 5'4", 5'3", and he had a short man's complex, and he told me all about it. He said that he wore elevated shoes. He always would stand on the highest point when people were having a conversation. And he constantly stepped on his tippy toes. He would walk around his tippy toes to elevate himself. The tippy toe stuff messed him up. He ended up herniating his disc, had to get back surgery, and as a result of the surgery, he lost another inch on his height. Death in Tehran, man. He was going straight towards death because of his fear. I had another student, a single mother, about 35 years old. Her ex-fiancé, she was supposed to marry him in 2 days. She finds him in bed with a young woman. The scandal was huge. Her ex-fiancé left the country, never came back. She never dated again for like 15 years, never dated again. And when she was so scared of getting hurt that she just created this bitter facade around her, this exoskeleton of bitterness. And she was a very bitter-looking human being. In fact, she looked like an apple that you put in the oven, you bake it at 500 degrees, and it just got all scrunched up. And I'll tell you, the power she had when she walked into the classroom. When you're taking roll, you're a teacher, and all the students are settling down, they're talking, they're having fun. As soon as she walked into the classroom, everyone would just stop, and the hairs on the back of their neck would just come up like quills on a porcupine. There was silence. She had that power, man. She was throwing banana peels in everyone's path before they got 100 yards close to her. And she is an example of someone whose fear made her overreact. Her coping mechanism was worse than the original offense. Here's another example. I had a student. He had this very eccentric uncle, and he was very scared. Here comes Natalie. I can hear her. Hey, Natalie, I'm making a video about death and old age. How you doing? Good. All right. It's about death and old age. Are you a counterpoint of youth to my video? I'll be done in 10 minutes, honey, all right? Okay, go back to headquarters, and I'll join you in 10 minutes, all right? Okay, no problem, no problem. This is a professionally produced video for your pleasure. Here we are in a hermetically sealed radio booth for your listening pleasure. So anyways, I had this student who had an uncle, and he was a fanatic about radiation, and he wouldn't watch TV too close. He had his television in the living room, but he wouldn't watch it in the living room because he was afraid the radioactive waves would zap him and give him some bad affliction. So he would go into his backyard with a pair of binoculars and watch TV from the backyard. And he got melanoma on his neck because he didn't put sunscreen on his neck. Bad move, man. Death in Tehran. You're going right to your death. Another example a student gave me of this very principle is she works at Target, and one of her coworkers is a racist against African Americans. And her coworker treats African American customers with cold, rude, icy, frosty disdain. How do you think the African American customers treat this coworker? Not good. And what's amazing is this racist coworker then goes on in her head and says, "See, I told you, they're so mean, they're so unruly. Lady, you did this. You're the one who was rude. You're the one who was icy and frosty, and yet you live in your little loop." And you just keep fulfilling the prophecy over and over and over again. You know, when I was younger, I was guilty of the self-fulfilling prophecy regarding love. I mean, I just figured I was too crazy, too neurotic, too self-centered, too grotesque to have a girlfriend. So when I had my first girlfriend, number one, I thought the whole thing was a fluke, that it should have never happened, that there must have been something wrong with her. She must have been on the rebound. She was clearly in some temporary state of delusional insanity to go out with me. And I was just convinced that she would see the light and dump me. I was just waiting for that shoe to drop. And there was this one point in the relationship where I kept asking her, "Hey, are you leaving me? What's that look on your face? Is that the I'm leaving you face?" And then 10 minutes later it would pass, Are you leaving me? So what do you think happened after a week of me continually asking her if she's leaving me? Well, she couldn't take it, man. She cracked and she left me. And because I was this delusional young man, my attitude was, "Aha! I knew it! Nothing gets past me, man. I knew she was leaving me. I'm so smart, man." And, that created this sort of self-feeding, delusional, self-fulfilling prophecy. Where did my destruction come from? Where did my misery come from? Was it old age? Was it death? Was it this thing out there? No, it was me. Fear was the enemy. So here I am. I'm going to be 54 in a couple weeks. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm running right toward Tehran. I got to stop running down there. I got to reread Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I got to find some. I'm going to be responsible right now. I think I'm going to have reading time with my daughters, and try to stop doing this run right toward Tehran. That's a bad scene. Anyways, hope you read the book, Man's Search for Meaning. Something to think about. If you have any comments, I'll be curious to see what you have to say about this topic. And until next time, I need some courage. And I hope there is a next time, because I'm scared as all hell. I'm out.